And a very good evening to you. Watching the news from the Cyprus Broadcasting Corporation in Nicosia, I'm Nathan Morley with tonight's top stories. The European Central Bank has lifted a suspension on Cyprus's debt for use in its refinancing operations. The ECB said their governing council had acknowledged the upgrades of credit ratings in Cyprus following the successful completion of the transactions announced by the Ministry of Finance. A statement added that the ECB had decided that marketable debt instruments issued or fully guaranteed by the Republic of Cyprus shall again be eligible collateral for the purpose of Eurosystem monetary policy operations. This decision applies to all outstanding and new marketable debt instruments issued or guaranteed by the Cypriot government. And it will come into force on the 5th of July with the relevant legal act which will specify the haircuts applicable to these assets. S&P upgraded Cyprus's rating to CCC+ from selective default on Wednesday following completion of an exchange of bonds the credit rating agency had deemed to be distressed. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon seems to be keeping a neutral stance on Turkish threats against Cyprus's right to exploit natural gas deposits within its exclusive economic zone. In a draft report on UNFICYP's renewal for 6 months, the UN chief also called on both sides to exert all efforts in a bid to avoid further tension in the region. Reports from New York said that the report also notes that the election of President Nikos Anastasiades raised hopes over the resumption of a new round of UN-brokered Cyprus peace talks. Greece could get its next tranche of international aid in installments, keeping the country in a hand-to-mouth existence that threatens to stifle its economy. Athens had hoped that Eurozone finance ministers would sign off on the next €8.1 billion tranche of aid when they meet on Monday. However, Greek officials have conceded the government will not meet an end-of-week deadline for the reforming of the public sector. Yesterday, Olli Rehn, the European Commissioner in charge of monetary affairs, confirmed what many officials have said privately, that the tranche could instead be split into several installments. In Athens, Greek Finance Ministry officials said that the two sides were close to a deal. Mr. Rehn said earlier that talks involving the IMF, the European Commission and the European Central Bank would continue as long as needed. Athens has said it expects to reach a deal by Monday's meeting of Eurozone finance ministers, despite failing to meet an end-of-June deadline to identify public sector workers to be redeployed or to be laid off. Egypt has counted its dead after Islamists, enraged by the overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi, took to the streets in an explosion of violence against what they denounced as a military coup. At least 30 people died and more than 1,000 were wounded after Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood movement called protests across the country. They also tried to march on the military compound where the ousted president is being held. The most deadly clashes were in Alexandria, where 14 people died and 200 were wounded. In central Cairo, pro- and anti-Morsi protesters fought pitched battles late into the night with stones, knives and petrol bombs. Moreover, the country's leading left-wing politician endorsed a military intervention to oust Morsi and said he expected a short transition to a new democratic president and parliament. Hamdin Sabahi, the leader of the Popular Current movement, said the army had implemented the will of the people and was not seeking power for itself. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has offered asylum to the former U.S. intelligence contractor Edward Snowden. The U.S. are demanding his arrest for divulging details of secret U.S. spy programs. Mr. Snowden is believed to be holed up in a transit area of Moscow's international airport and has been trying to find a country that would take him since June the 23rd. Russia has kept Snowden at arm's length, saying the transit area where passengers stay between flights is neutral territory. He will be on Russian soil only if he goes through passport control. It was not immediately clear how Snowden would react to Maduro's offer, nor reach Venezuela if he accepted. There are no commercial direct flights between Moscow and Caracas, and the usual route involves changing planes in Havana. It's not clear if the Cuban authorities would let him transit. Given the dramatic grounding in Vienna of the Bolivian president's plane this week over suspicions that Mr. Snowden was on board using European airspace could prove problematic. And that's our news for tonight. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. It will be clear all day with moderate to strong winds, force 4 to 5 over slightly rough seas. Temperatures will rise to 36 degrees centigrade inland, 31 to 33 in coastal areas, and 29 degrees over the mountains. And that's it from us here at the CYBC. Until tomorrow, good night.